Right now, somewhere inside you, there's a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit. Not broken. Not depressed. Just slightly out of place. Like you're playing a role that fits well enough to pass, but never quite well enough to feel like home. You felt it standing in a crowded room, completely surrounded, and still somehow alone. You felt it scrolling through everyone else's lives, wondering when exactly you agreed to live at this pace, want these things, feel this anxious about all of it. Here's the truth almost no one says out loud: you didn't choose most of this. The urgency you feel. The things you're insecure about. The constant pull to check, to respond, to keep up, none of it was your idea. It was absorbed. Installed. Long before you had any say in the matter. And once you see that clearly, really see it, something in you can't go back to not seeing it. This video isn't about escaping society, or hating it, or becoming someone cold and detached from the world. It's quieter than that. It's about what happens when you stop unconsciously absorbing everything around you and start choosing. Stay until the end. Because what I'm about to show you will change the way you experience every room you walk into for the rest of your life. There is a feeling that most people carry but rarely name. It shows up in the quiet moments, standing in a crowded elevator, scrolling through a feed full of strangers, sitting in a meeting where everyone is nodding at something no one actually believes. It's the feeling of being surrounded and alone at the same time. Of performing a version of yourself that fits, while some other part of you stands slightly apart, watching, wondering when exactly you agreed to any of this. You didn't choose most of what shaped you. The pace you live at, the things you're supposed to want, the way you're supposed to feel about your job, your body, your time, your worth, almost none of it was chosen consciously. It was absorbed. Inherited. Installed by 1,000 small moments of fitting in, long before you had the perspective to ask whether any of it made sense. And here is the strange part. The moment you start to see this clearly, really see it, something shifts that can't be unshifted. You start to feel like a visitor in a world you used to feel native to. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is not a video about hating society, or escaping it, or building some fantasy of self-sufficient isolation. Those are reactions, not solutions, and reactions are still, in their own way, a form of being controlled. This is something quieter. It's about what changes inside a person when they stop unconsciously absorbing the emotional and psychological signals of the world around them, and start consciously choosing which ones to let in. Most people don't realize how much of their inner life is borrowed. The anxiety they feel about falling behind, borrowed from a culture obsessed with productivity. The specific things they feel insecure about, largely manufactured by industries that profit from that insecurity. The urgency they feel about responding to messages, checking notifications, staying constantly available, borrowed from a digital environment engineered to make stillness feel like falling behind. None of this was your idea. And yet, until you notice it, it runs your life as if it were. Awareness changes social behavior in a way that surprises people the first time it happens to them. The more clearly you see the patterns, the performance, the manufactured urgency, the borrowed anxieties, the less natural it feels to participate in them. Conversations that used to feel normal start to feel slightly hollow. Group dynamics that used to feel comfortable start to feel like everyone is reading from a script that no one wrote but everyone agreed to follow. This is why aware people often become quieter. Not because they have less to say, but because so much of social interaction is built on shared participation in things that, once you see clearly, you can no longer participate in without feeling slightly false. You stop laughing at things that aren't funny. You stop performing excitement you don't feel. You stop pretending to be busier, happier, more put together than you are, just to match the energy in the room. And the silence that follows isn't emptiness. It's the sound of someone no longer performing. Modern life is structured, whether intentionally or not, to keep this kind of awareness as far away as possible. Every app, every feed, every notification is competing for the same finite resource, your attention, and stillness is the enemy of that competition. So the environment keeps you moving, reacting, consuming. There's always something urgent, something outrageous, something you're supposed to have an opinion about right now. Underneath all this noise is a kind of low hum of exhaustion that most people have simply learned to live with, the way you stop noticing a sound that's been running in the background for years. You don't feel rested even after rest. You don't feel satisfied even after the thing you wanted. There's always a next thing, a next scroll, a next update, and the gap between one stimulus and the next has gotten so small that most people have forgotten what it feels like to simply exist without input. This isn't a personal failing. It's the predictable result of an environment optimized for engagement rather than peace. But understanding that doesn't change anything by itself. What changes things is what you do with that understanding. Once you see the structure, once you understand that most of what feels urgent isn't, that most of what feels necessary is manufactured, that most of the noise exists to be noise, your perception of the world quietly reorganizes itself. Things that used to feel important start to feel optional. Things that used to feel optional, rest, reflection, simply being present in a moment without documenting it, start to feel essential. This is where emotional energy protection begins. Not as a defensive posture, but as a kind of selective permeability. You start to notice which interactions leave you feeling like yourself and which ones leave you feeling like you have to recover afterward. You start to notice which environments make you feel more like the noise and which ones make you feel more like the silence beneath it. And slowly, almost without deciding to, you start orienting your life toward the second kind. The shift from reacting to observing is subtle but total. A reactive person experiences the world as a series of things happening to them, comments that wound, situations that demand response, moods that arrive uninvited and take over. An observing person experiences the same events, but with a small but crucial space between the event and the response. In that space, something new becomes possible. Not suppression. Not denial. Just choice. There's a particular kind of internal calm that develops in people who have done this work, not the calm of someone who has nothing left to feel, but the calm of someone who has stopped needing the external world to be a certain way in order to feel okay internally. This calm doesn't look impressive from the outside. It doesn't announce itself. It's just there, quietly, underneath everything else, the way a deep lake stays still even when the surface ripples. This is also where over-explaining starts to fall away. Most over-explaining comes from a need to be understood, a fear that if someone doesn't fully grasp your reasoning, something bad will happen, they'll think less of you, they'll be upset, the relationship will suffer. But the more grounded you become in your own sense of self, the less this fear has to feed on. You start to notice that most people who ask why aren't actually asking. They're testing, or venting, or simply filling silence. And you no longer feel obligated to fill it for them. Silence, in this context, stops being uncomfortable. It becomes spacious. A pause in conversation is no longer something to be filled, it's simply a moment where nothing needs to happen. And the strange thing is, the people around you often start to relax in your presence too, even if they couldn't say why. Calm is contagious in a way that anxiety only pretends to be. The way emotional maturity changes communication is subtle but unmistakable. You start saying less, but meaning more of it. You stop responding to provocation with explanation, and start responding with simple, clear truth, or sometimes, with nothing at all. Not as a power move. Just because most things don't need a response, and you finally stopped feeling like everything does. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. If anything, you care more, but the caring becomes cleaner. Less entangled with your own need for approval, less performative, less anxious. You can be present with someone without needing the interaction to prove anything about you. What happens, eventually, is not that the world becomes less noisy. The world stays exactly as loud, as fast, as performative as it always was. What changes is your relationship to it. You become someone who can stand in the middle of all that noise and feel, somewhere underneath it, a kind of stillness that doesn't depend on the noise stopping. This is not a destination. It's not a personality you arrive at and then keep forever, untouched. It's a practice, a daily, quiet return to the question of what's actually yours and what was simply absorbed. Some days you'll forget. You'll get pulled back into the noise, the urgency, the performance. And then, at some point, you'll notice. And noticing is enough. Noticing is the whole practice. The world will keep asking for your attention, your anxiety, your participation in things that were never really yours to begin with. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to escape it. You just have to keep coming back gently, without judgment, to the quiet part of you that was there before any of it started, and will still be there after. Before you go anywhere, just sit with this for a second. You watched this entire video. That alone tells me something. Most people couldn't sit through 18 minutes of quiet. You did. That's not nothing. I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually think about it before you answer. Somewhere in this video, there was one sentence, just one, that felt like it was written specifically for you. A moment where something inside you went quiet, or sat up, or felt seen. Go to the comments and write that sentence. Or even just a few words from it. Whatever stuck. Here's why this matters more than it seems. When you write down the thing that affected you, you're not just commenting, you're marking it. Making it real. Most people let these moments slip past without ever acknowledging them. You don't have to. And if this video gave you even a little bit of that quiet clarity, subscribe. Because what we're building here isn't content. It's a space. A place to come back to when the noise gets too loud. But first, that sentence. In the comments. Right now.